When it comes to creating content, there are so many things that you can do and that you have to do. So the real bottleneck is actually becoming more productive and getting more out of your time. So if you've been struggling with actually being productive and setting up the right workflows and all that kind of stuff, then today's episode will be very, very interesting to you because today, I'm happy to welcome Oscar Lagrosen. So Oscar is a content creator and he's actually creating content about how to help new content creators become more productive. So Oscar is going to share with us how he was able to actually crank out a new piece of content every day and how he was able to self-publish 3 books in 3 months and write 337 articles in 1 year. What are the lessons learned? What is the best way to get started? We are going to answer all of these questions on this new episode of Build Your Thing. Hey everyone, Matt Giaro here, and welcome to Build Your Thing, the podcast where we help content creators find their unique creative voice, monetize their work, and build their tribe of loyal fans. With that being said, let's get started. So, Oscar, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Matt. Glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. So as I mentioned, like before starting the recording, like I stumbled across your your content. It was like I think 6 months ago, something like this. So you were like publishing, like you were kind of a publishing machine, so publishing daily on several platforms. So we're going to talk about that later on this episode. But for the time being, could you please give us a quick presentation about who you are and what you're actually doing?
Yeah, it's so funny how things like changes so quickly, especially in the beginning. So, just a quick snapshot of who I am in December 2022. I'm Oscar Lagrosen, currently situated in Poland, but I'm originally from Sweden. And the reason why I'm in Poland is because I work for Amazon, like remotely as a day job. But on aside from the time I spent at Amazon, I spent pretty much all my time on YouTube nowadays. So it's pretty much on my YouTube channel, which is my name. You can also find the description. You can see that there is an upload every other day. So I don't know, it's not daily anymore, like article wise, but I sort of kept the publishing schedule somewhat consistent on the YouTube channel too. So that's pretty much what it's about. And regarding the content itself, I'm a very big fan of productivity and how we can sort of get more done for what limited time and resources we have. And since I feel like I'm a new creator, Matt is more on the beginning side, and I feel like many people here who are listening to this also might be very inspired to create or maybe in the first journey. So I sort of dedicated this entire channel for productivity for new creators. So that's pretty much what I'm obsessing with on a daily basis.
That's pretty interesting. So, like, can you walk us a little bit through, like, how did you actually got started to this, creating content stuff?
Yeah, it's quite funny, and I think it all started when it comes to your own productivity habits. So it was 3 years ago, I guess, in which I discovered David Allen's work with getting things done and his books, all that stuff, and I, of course, got completely blown away that you don't need to struggle anymore in order to get mediocre results. So you can sort of be able to create what you want with minimum effort and stuff like that. So then the whole journey started with sort of writing down stuff for myself, and it all became accelerated in a way 2 years later when I looked up other creators who have done significant contributions to that field, including Tiago Forte. I remember that he was a guest on your show. And from there, it sort of kept expanding and expanding. And also at the time, I had just graduated from the bachelor's university in Sweden and applied for many jobs, but didn't get any. So I sort of reluctantly, in a way, not really reluctantly, but sort of went to the master program. But I was sort of bummed out a little bit on the fact that I didn't have any work experience. So I figured out that I might as well create my own work experience. That's pretty much what entrepreneurship is rather. So I went out and joined a local startup community back in October 2021, in which it was a boost chamber, it was called, in which you could have the opportunity to get some feedback on your new idea and validate stuff and all of that. And I originally thought of making a course regarding how to access this called total presence, since I've been meditating for like more than 20 years at this point, and also been really consuming content regarding the flow state. And I felt that I could sort of help people with achieving that. But I quickly figured out that if you're sort of starting out and unknown, maybe you want to sort of make something that people can consume for free. So that was the idea when the blog came in, which I sort of set up during the November that year. And then I figured out after reading Seth Godin's work that I should probably write daily too, because if I write daily, I don't need to procrastinate. I sort of know that, okay, I have this hard deadline until tomorrow, so I can't really goof around and make things more harder than I could possibly do. So since I got into this daily cadence with first writing 26 articles regarding the productivity system, I myself found my first, by the way. So that's pretty much how it got started. It just kept on from there until maybe in summer when I sort of shifted focus a little bit. So yeah, this is how we got started with the writing process in general.
This is very interesting. So I definitely have some question about like you shifting from, shipping things daily into like into your current cadence, which is like I think like several videos per week on your channel.
Yeah.
But like how did you actually set this daily writing habit up? Because you know um so many people want to create content and then they just create a bunch of stuff in their head and they aren't really able to get things out there. So obviously there are several reasons for that: imposter syndrome, over complicating things, overthinking, and all that kind of stuff. But what are the specific steps that you've set up to just be consistent?
Yeah, and of course it's going to be really like nervous in the beginning. That's it for everyone whenever it starts a new thing. And I thought about it for a long time, especially during the days when I started. Okay, I'm going to publish from that day and so forth. So I set out sort of a time limit. I'm a morning person, so I usually wake up at around 5:30 and then get to work at around maybe half an hour later. And I figured out that if I can have this dedicated block, this sacred hour, called that, in which I can sort of be completely uninterrupted, sort of in my own ambient music bubble. I found out a particular Spotify list that I still listen to this day, and it's sort of a very good anchor into a more ritualistic feeling of writing. And from there, I would say that mostly when it comes to the beginning stuff, to write about things that you know. So I had this pretty elaborate plan for a very long time before I started to write that this is going to be a long part series, because at that time I was reading other bloggers who done like maybe 10-part series, 15-part series, 20-part series, etc. So it was more it was much easier to sort of plan out what it's going to be in advance, because you not want to end up in a situation when you're like having afternoon and evening and you know what you're going to write at all tomorrow when you're just starting out. You want to have some safety net, because there's some other things that you need to sort of get more comfortable with in terms of publishing and being finding a voice, etc. So what I did between November and December last year was almost exclusively write about productivity system invented for myself, and it became 26 articles, so pretty elaborate thing. I could sort of, whenever I wrote a new piece on that, I could immediately gather some ideas. Okay, I want to mention that in future installations of that article series and so forth. And I also combined it with each weekend I had this weekly update schedule in which I wrote briefly on what I was up to. And also on Sundays, I had this reading and listening tips because at the time I read like and listened so many books. So I figured out that I might as well be a little bit of a reviewer in that part. And I kept on, especially with the Sunday posts. I think that there are maybe some on Medium right now in probably until summer, until I sort of shift gears a little bit. So, in short, I would recommend that you sort of have a little bit of a plan, a little bit of an intention. Like, okay, for the next 2 weeks, for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to write about this, so and so. And of course, you can change along the way. It's not like it's set in stone, but it's very helpful to have a safety net to fall back on. And one other thing that I just came up with right now, when it comes to ideas, it's very helpful if you have something to store with ideas. It could be a Kanban board, it could be a list, it could be something you could have in a task manager. So you don't need to sort of reinvent the wheel all the time, that you have a very good library of potentially good ideas that you can drag upon each day or so forth. And you will quickly find out that the more you write, the more you write. I believe it was Nicholas Cole, another writer, who said that. So it's not like you're going to run out of ideas, since you have the opportunity to expand on what you previously wrote and so forth. So yeah, it's a little bit of a pleasant surprise once you start out. But again, it's good to have a little bit of a forethought. But the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks is going to be all about, to take the pressure off.
This is very interesting. So, did you start exclusively writing on your blog, or like did you jump on? Obviously, like I spoiled the answer a little bit, but did you jump on, let's say, platforms where there is already an audience?
So I uh, I actually started on my blog, and during like November and December, I distributed the links to a Facebook page that I owned, and also to my Twitter account back then. And because I was quite a top tier Pokemon Go player before that, I had some a pretty decent following back then. It was not like I got any engagement from that, but it was still enough for me to have another outlet to show from. And of course, I gained like a couple of views for each article, but not really top tier numbers, so to speak. But it was after, especially during the New Year's until this year, 2022, that I first of all had to reinvent my content strategy, since my productivity article system series was over. So, and then I sort of looked out that there was this thing called Medium, and then there was this other kinds of platforms. You can sort of make it natively to them. And we could talk Twitter, we can talk Facebook, we can talk Instagram, we can talk even TikTok. I was there too, especially during the January. I was pretty influenced by Gary Vaynerchuk back then, who said that we should pretty much be in all kinds of places. So of course I took that advice back then. I wouldn't recommend it now, but we can talk about it later. And it sort of went off from there. And I also joined the Ship 30 for 30, the Mars cohort. I don't know if you sort of like explained the course before, but maybe we could talk about it during this episode. But it was especially during that time that it sort of exploded in terms of where each article was manifested in different platforms.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So what did you actually learn from uh, you know uh, creating daily, and did, let's say, the frame um, that you put that you put for yourself, let's say, talking about productivity, like did the frame actually change, or because because some people, let's say, they start with one specific topic, and then let's say they shift because they see either they are not interested by it, or either they see there is like no market feedback. So like how did this how did you manage that?
Yeah, that's something that one sort of have to play around it a little bit, sort of this constant question, okay, am I going to pivot, or am I going to broaden out a little bit, am I going to get into another niche, etc. So it was definitely after I written about my own invented productivity system in late 2021 that I sort of had to see, okay, where do I want to take it next? So I initially started with writing more about habits, and then a little bit about email, and then more into sort of general things based on insights that I sort of got at the time. For instance, how important like failure is, and the importance of failing and trying again. And then it was especially during the beginning of March, where I sort of found out that I had a much better productivity system than what I had back then. So it became another article series in that matter. And then it was pretty much starting to elaborate my own, call it category, if you might wish. I call it total living, which was basically a holistic framework on how you can operate like every day, either through like your unique mental state, which is total presence, to then incorporating productivity and sort of a good unstoppable growth mindset to it. So I wouldn't really say that I went off the productivity. I sort of tried to incorporate other things into the productivity lens, the self-development lens. So I sort of tried to build my own framework for sort of understanding how each person could be their most effective self back then, which was a very big theme on my blog for a long time, a couple of months, this total living. So it was more things merging together rather than jumping from bucket to bucket, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that make total sense. So, what did you learn from, let's say, like, obviously, like you published those articles on your website, and then yeah, like you took the advice from, the media guru Gary Vaynerchuk: be everywhere and spread yourself all across 532 different platforms. So how did this, like, how did you manage to do this?
So I remember especially during one day, which I explicitly wrote how I did all of that in just like under 20 minutes or so, and it got pretty popular. So then I got motivated to write a book about this, my first ebook. That, of course, was a big step too. But the entire summary about this is that you could reach 24 different platforms using only specific moves. So, for example, there is this popular typewriter or typewriting platform called TypeShare, in which you can, from just one interface, publish directly to Twitter and Medium and LinkedIn. And that's pretty much a very go-to good place to start, since you don't need to do so much. And then you can have all this extra reach that you might not have even thought about before, and not needing to sort of copy and paste like all the time. And after that, it's pretty much exploring the wonderful world of podcasts and YouTube. As you probably know, there are a lot of podcast stations. You can talk Spotify, you can talk Apple, you can talk Google, and a whole lot of other things like Pocket Casts, Overcast, Stitcher, etc. So each of them are sort of like their own platform. And when it came to the podcasting, I everything from the start was pretty big on being in that space too. So I did every morning some kind of a Zoom recording for myself, in which I read out like word for word what I wrote during that particular morning, and then I sent the audio file to a service called Anchor, in which you can, from just one button, publish to many different podcast platforms for which they are connected to. And then I took both the audio and video file to YouTube. So my older videos back then were just dead simple. It was pretty much me in sort of a very non-enthusiastic fashion, if I look at it today, reading up about them. So in terms of how you can publish to many places the fastest way possible, is pretty much using solutions like already exist, like TypeShare, and also making sure that either you're very good at copy paste, but also if you can have this unique potential that podcasts can bring you in terms of reading up things on your own. So if you look beyond just written word, you can see that there are many more possibilities from there. But yeah, again, that was what I was doing at that time.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So the only like issue, like when you try to be everywhere at the same time, obviously, is that like you lose kind of focus. And the other big issue is that like like with all the different platforms, like they all have their specific way of creating content. So
Yes,
like
yes.
like you can acknowledge that, right? So like people who consume, let's say, information on Twitter are not the same people who are actually reading Medium articles. People who are watching, let's say, YouTube tutorials aren't the same people who are just swiping to just see 15 seconds videos on TikTok. So obviously, like, just a word of caution for everyone who's listening to this. Like, it's not necessarily a good idea to spread yourself, or it's actually, let's just name it, it's a bad idea to start trying to be everywhere at the same time. But like, there may be some option that you can explore just in order just to increase your visibility, especially at the beginning, when you just have to make a lot of noise and really trying to find actually your path. Because like, I work with a lot of creators. Like, some of them are already um, in the content creation game for some years, and others are just starting out. And at the beginning, you don't really know, like, do you like to write, or do you like to make videos, or do you prefer creating a podcast? So all these different things, you just have to experiment at the beginning, just to see like what things actually fits to you, to your personality, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I really like that you put the word of caution. I would very much comment on that, because that was especially a insight that got me to shift gears and sort of focus exclusively on YouTube, because
Mhm.
there is this thing called niche slapping fallacy, which basically at that time I thought that okay, I should be everywhere, because then I increase my chances that one of them is going to take off. But in reality, all of the platform could take off, but not everything at once. So it all comes down to the focus thing again, because you sort of make it want to native to the platform, and you sort of have to build your own skills in that matter. Like it's as you said, it's different to publishing on Medium versus publishing on LinkedIn, publishing on TikTok, on Twitter and YouTube. So by keeping it very focused in the beginning, because we don't really have a lot of leverage in the beginning. It's all coming down to us and how we allocate our time, and especially our attention. And doing this hopping around between different platforms is sort of limiting us back in a way. And it took a long time for me to realize it, but now it's sort of very evident that it is the case that you have your own unique bits of attention that obviously should go into where it most matters, which is just pick and then continue forward. So yeah, again, this extra word of caution for everyone listening.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that, especially, like, almost all platforms today are quite of, they're like, so there's like so much competition. It's very fierce competition. So let's say,
Yeah.
if you just, let's say, try to make it on YouTube, well, then there are so many things that you need to learn. And yeah, like, you need those feedback loops, right? You need to improve. Like, you need to really go through it, understand how to create a thumbnail, how to create a video that catches attention, and all these things. Like, if you are at the same time trying to also write, let's say, on Medium or on Twitter, and try to interact with others and all that kind of stuff, like, like, at the end of the day, like, your brain is just fried. And the most important thing is that all this, like, you really don't spend time creating content, because you have to figure out so many things at the same time. So it's actually the fastest way to just burn out, and then just spit on this whole thing and say, okay, all this creative stuff is just BS, it doesn't work, and it just made me miserable, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're spreading yourself too thin and find out that you have like 24 leaking buckets and not going anywhere. So it's better to fix one bucket and make it good, especially on YouTube when you don't really know how many skills you need to learn in order to get some traction. It's very hard in the beginning, but that's the fun of it.
Exactly. So this is why I really like the approach of actually going on a sprint. So let's say if you're interested, let's say by YouTube, like this is actually something that I've done back in 2021 or 2020. I don't remember exactly, but the thing is, like, I was actually publishing a video every like six times per week. I just took like one day off, and I've done this like daily, right? So for 3 months, and like this is like how we actually learn. How you start understanding, like, okay, how can I optimize my process? Because if you're just, let's say, creating one article, one video, one podcast, or anything, like, just let's say one time per month or one time per week, you really don't have this quick feedback loops to actually improve your process, understand, well, how can I start working smarter, what templates can I use, what kind of automation can I set up to just to improve and my workflow, and also improve my skill at the same time. So I don't know, like, what's exactly your take on that, and like how do you approach dealing with feedback loops? So let's just bring it back to YouTube, since you're bold on YouTube right now. So what is kind of your process of increasing those feedback loops?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, feedback is everything. If you don't have feedback, you know who what is going on, and that's where analytics sort of come in. But also because I feel like there's this very big discussion whether, like, if you want to optimize for quality and optimize for quantity. But the funny thing is that, and that's something that I probably elaborated in one of my newly published videos, that some aspects, like, we can talk storytelling, we can talk ideas, we can talk other kinds of features, requires that you do them again and again and again. Like, imagine that you want to be a great football player. You cannot just be from the start. You have to put in the reps, and the faster you can get in those reps and make sure that you got the kick right and the stance, and be able to be at a certain location when the ball is there and have the footwork ready, stuff like that. That is something that takes many, many tries, and you have to be sort of alert to each one. So the faster you can sort of cram in, and the faster you got these tight feedback loops, the faster you'll improve. I remember the classic investor Naval once said that it's maybe not necessarily 10,000 hours that's necessary for mastery, but 10,000 iterations. And I believe that the modern science is sort of in the same way too, in which the more repetitions you do per unit of time, the faster you will quickly improve on that. So again, back to videos, it's sort of, you have to balance. Obviously, you cannot just publish whatever. You have to sort of make an effort into it, but make sure that you can take it in sequence. Like, for instance, when I was starting YouTube in the beginning, I honestly didn't start like every other day. I started with every week, and that was because there was so much to learn for me. I had to learn editing software, Premiere Pro, in like 5 days or so of just intense sprint. And then it's so much things that need to be like set up in terms of templates and publishing routines and stuff like that. And but then you quickly figure out that, okay, now I got the basic moves. Now it's sort of getting faster and faster, and then I can have this extra opportunity to make it even shorter in terms of the pauses in between each upload. So this is when I went from once a week to twice a week, to then every other day, and even at one point every single day, just to clear out the buffer. But again, as I said earlier, when it comes to quantity and quality, I feel like if you're new to this and don't really know what you're doing, and I could certainly attribute myself to that, then I feel it's better to sort of have this extra enhancing feedback. Like, okay, I published this, now what? Well, how is the response? Okay, it went sort of like this. And all the time you can just learn, like, theoretically what has been working on other channels in a specific area of interest, and learn from that. But again, as Alex Hormozy says, that quality might be better than quantity, but quality is better than quality, and quantity can help a lot with things that do matter, like storytelling, which is pretty much all you need to succeed anywhere. So yeah, it's a pretty important skill. So yeah, maybe that was a good answer or not.
Yeah, so this is quite interesting. So the thing is like how do you actually manage like the getting feedback? Because like especially when you're starting out, like most of your content like will not get noticed. So like what is the thing that you actually work on when you have no feedback? Like no market feedback?
Well, I can't really say for sure because I do get some feedback now, but and as I heard from
Yeah. At the beginning, back when you were starting out, like you start with a new channel, 0 views or 3, 4 views, like how do you actually learn from this?
So honestly, when I started out my channel back when I started to blog, it was more focused on the blog and not necessarily on channel. And it was definitely visible on the views. I got like 2 or 3 or 1 and 4 like views per video. And I honestly understand why now because I didn't put as much effort as not even necessary to break even. So, but now when it comes to like analytics and stuff, it's sort of like this same question. Like, okay, it got that many views or that got many less views, what happened here? And then you sort of learn things like over time, like, okay, you got these different contact buckets and then you have this algorithm running around and trying to serve people with what they want. So in other words, some topics might fit better with one particular audience. And especially for us new creators, it's all coming down to having the algorithm getting to know us better. So we need to keep publishing and keep publishing and keep publishing until the algorithm discovers, okay, he or she is doing that kind of content. So let's serve that for potential viewers back then too. So I would say that especially when it comes to this 0 views, 2 views, 4 views change. And one thing that was very encouraging when I was in Cheap 30 for 30, and I remember that they said that even if you get maybe 4 or 8, you can still think of it like relatively speaking, like 4 to 8. That's pretty much a double right there. So then you can think of it in a relative sense that you can build and double down from that too in order to grow it a little bit forward. And then I think something that maybe is a little bit underrated, but maybe should not, is a little bit of a patience too. There is this quote by Neil Strauss which says that 90% of success basically is doing the one thing for an uncommon long period of time without convincing yourself you're smarter than you are. And I can sort of understand it too. And I think that's pretty encouraging for people to hear. When I discover like new YouTubers, it takes a while, usually like a couple of weeks, until I really discover them again and then again. And then I realize, oh, this one's good for me. And then I start to consume. So from the time I discovered like a particular name to when I became a super fan, it could take months. So imagine when you're starting out and you got people first discovering you, and of course we are talking about a small pool, and they are doing this I call trust cycle, in which you see, okay, this name, okay, whatever, back to TikTok, and then a couple of months later you see an article, oh, that was interesting, and then another month later, this is definitely for me, and then like consuming all that. So what I'm saying is that it could take a couple of months until you get this super fast because they've gotten the time and necessarily delay to become more familiar with your stuff. So that's once again these cycles of trust, you could call it that probably is a big factor there too. I assume, or just widely guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you always yeah, obviously like trust is like everything, especially, like when you're building an audience, like, people can see you all day long, but if they don't trust you, then they may still consume your content, but they will never, let's say, buy anything from you. And this is actually
Exactly.
like the goal of creating content is like helping others, but at the same time also making a sale. So definitely, like, without trust, you're just screwed. So, Oscar, let me just let us walk us right now behind the curtain. Like, how does actually the the productivity system, your productivity system looks like. Like, how do you, let's say, go from idea to published videos? How do you manage, having so many different tasks to do, either in your job at Amazon, or your side hustle, being a creator? How do you manage the information, the things that you learn in order just to progress at your craft? So how do you make sense of all this mess?
I would say that my particular hack, if you can call it that, and I feel like not many people probably practice this, is writing your script while walking. You have this extra time when you're like commuting, you're traveling, you go into the gym and then going back, taking walks and stuff like that. That maybe you're not as not doing anything else, but if you can sort of learn and train yourself to pick up your phone and then not necessarily like look at it all the time, but then look up and then look down and look back. I got a video on my channel explaining more on how to do it, and already there you save yourself so much time, because most of the information and valuable stuff all comes down to what you're trying to say, whether it's bullet points or script, and that's pretty much a major turning point for me when it came to how to sort of get more time back, which I wouldn't really have otherwise. So I usually today let's say if we go from one idea to a published video, I start right now. I'm editing one video and starting with another, so I have like one script before the video I'm creating. Sorry, the video that I'm editing. So, like every morning, I usually go to the gym and work out there, and then come back. So there's this bus ride and this walk when I time in. Okay, now I'm going to write what I want to say and sort of make the more heavy lifting, or we'll call it at that, and sort of do that while having this extra optic flow in our eyes. When we are walking and we see stuff, and it's bright weather, it's good sunlight and stuff like that. All these environmental cues, I found that especially helps a lot with like creativity, and especially when writer's block and stuff like that, since you don't really need to sacrifice everything, but you're walking anyway, so you're still making progress. And ironically, once you take the pressure off, then the creativity just flows and flows. So I can pretty much write maybe up to 5 to 6 minutes of YouTube video maybe in one morning, since I've sort of make it as efficient as possible now in terms of writing the content itself and how to structure it from bullet point and from there. And now we're talking the content or more the back end side. In terms of recording, I usually start by I have my own desk at home in which I do the A roll. I talk about what I was writing at that time, and then I immediately start to work on the thumbnail, because as you probably know, it's a very important aspect of YouTube. And from there, I start to pretty much spend the rest of the time in Premiere Pro, in which I first cut out every accidental pause or accidental thing that wasn't really clearly articulated, stuff like that. And then I start to go wild in terms of effects or text popping up and stuff like that. And that can take a lot. I'm at the moment editing a 24-minute long video that I expect would take more than one day to complete. So I would say that aside from just my day jobs, it all comes down to priorities. It's not like at this moment that I'm doing anything else from more serious basis other from day job and gym, because I mean, you have so much time, do you? And the more you can allocate to one particular thing, the faster it will get, the faster you will learn and stuff like that. So, and it's not definitely forever, but I feel like especially when you don't have anything or any leverage or any kind of compounding right now, that it's good to have this sort of monk mode, putting everything and go all in basically. So when I finish with the editing, I of course publish it, and then it's all repeat. It's coming down to this endless cycle, and I think it's very important to enjoy each part of it, like from the idea to the walk itself, to the recording, to the editing. So it doesn't feel like you have to start over again, but rather, okay, and now I'm in this phase, and now I'm in this phase. All these are equally important. So it doesn't really feel like I have to sort of publish each video all the time. It's sort of as like you like each season. So I don't know if that was a good answer, but that's usually how I publish and create videos nowadays. So I found it very well working. And of course, I'm experimenting a lot with adding more B-roll filming myself. So it, of course, it takes a while too to set up the tripod and make some mediocre acting things and make it working post from there. So of course, it's an endless learning. And if we do the same podcast like 1 year later, I would probably say something completely different, but maybe not. So yeah, that's the beauty of being a beginner, I would say.
Yeah, so like honestly, like I really like the, like I watched several of your videos on your channel, and I would encourage everyone who's listening to this to actually check out your channel and just see, like, at the beginning, like I really like the kind of authentic way. So obviously, like when you're filming, let's say your B-roll, and then just editing it and adding it to your to your video. Obviously, we all know that we are not watching, let's say, Matt Divella's channel with, like with the super fancy cameras, with the perfect angles, and with all that kind of stuff. And I really like, in my opinion, like this adds, like uh, an interesting layer of trust, transparency. And obviously this is something that, if you continue doing this, like in 5 years, or maybe like, and even let's say in 6 months, like you will look back and you will tell yourself, oh, like this was really stupid, or this was like really bad quality. But this is actually how you make progress. And if you're not, let's say, ashamed, if I can use this word, by the work that you've put out, let's say 6 months ago or 1 year ago, then you're not making any progress, and it's actually a good thing. So I just wanted to congratulate on that, and I have truly like appreciate your videos, and the fact how you edited them, and really, like, as I told you, like it really looks like, it's not a Hollywood production, but it's like it really gets the core message to the viewer. Like, we're not going, let's say, I'm not going to watch Oscar because I want like great cinema quality videos. I just want to learn more about productivity, and I just wanted to congratulate you on that.
Thank you so much, Matt. And yeah, it's pretty funny once you like look back even like weeks from now. And I can like safely say, like, by the time the videos come out, from like 2 days later, the video that will be come out for me by then, it will be significantly like markedly better than what I'm doing like now. And that's the thing. I usually keep a buffer around like 2 weeks to keep like sanity high. And I see like myself, like I can, yeah, it's totally different in terms of quality from the first 10 to like the others that are there too. So I feel like the videos I'm doing now, and one thing that I especially figured out and especially learned was the power of storytelling. Because if I look back at my own videos now, I can clearly see that I haven't really like delivered this feeling, this delivered, oh, he understand me, and then the like counts. And that you can only do by sort of this relating, this authenticity, this storytelling once again, which is very hard to. But the beauty of storytelling is that it's a quantity thing, so you literally repeat and repeat and become better at it. And I feel especially during the Christmas time, these videos are definitely way more personality, but also more storytelling driven, and definitely more in trying to sort of make a change, make a transformation for everyone. So yeah, it's pretty funny. And regarding Machiavella too, I of course he has a course called Master YouTube, and I purchased it. It's very good. So next time he will launch it again, maybe sometime next year, I can full-heartedly recommend it, because he's the expert in terms of filmmaking, and it's a very good tip, by the way, to learn from the best and trying to sort of shortcut your process that way. Plus, you get an access to the community too. So yeah, I'm pretty much absorbed all what he knows in order to sort of emulate it as sort of as fast as possible.
Yeah, so like I really smell like his touch on like your latest be like how you know like your B rolls and that kind of stuff. So I thought like okay, this guy probably got some inspiration from an expert here. But yeah,
Lots and lots and lots. Yeah, these big names like Mattia and even other YouTubers like Casey Neistat and stuff like that. I mean, of course, you get inspired, and that's a very good way to look at the things that you enjoy and take what you like and so forth. So, of course, I'm more into these kind of ways of showing and telling and stuff like that.
that's quite interesting. That's really really interesting. So Oscar, before we wrap up this call, is there anything else that you want to add?
If there's anything else that I want to add, I think that talked about a lot about what is currently the state, and as I want to like say something for many new creators that are out there, that the first month, because you're sort of like trying out, things change pretty rapidly, since you have to sort of be very willing to change position. But it all comes down to having this singular focus towards one thing, and not get distracted, not feeling that you have these other kinds of opportunities going on, but realize, and we said before and I say it again, you can make anything work, but maybe not everything, especially in the beginning where you don't have leverage. So it's all putting down all eggs in one basket, and simplify as much as possible in order to get the most headspace, in order to make what you can make much better than what you could. So that's pretty much a thing that I constantly remind myself again and again, that it all keep things very simple and upgrade from what you're already doing it better and so forth. So, and most of all, that's something that we probably have touched upon, but the creation process is so fulfilling in itself. I mean, I've done a lot of like things in the past, but nothing is as comparable as knowing that you have something that you are making, that you're manifesting, that you're sort of seeing whatever you can do. And then you sort of get some feedback after that, and you see your internal growth. Because the beauty with writing and doing stuff on YouTube, that you learn so much yourself by the stuff that you want to say. So even if you don't see any traction on your channel, know that the process in itself is as or even more fulfilling than anything could possibly be in terms of stuff like that. So that's, if anyone is just struggling with consistency, which I feel is like the biggest hurdle, especially in the beginning, make it as enjoyable as possible, and be very proud that you're doing this very courageous path, and also very fulfilling path already right now. So a little words of encouragement here.
Yeah, that's very very wise advice. So thank you very much for that. Obviously, I'm going to link to your YouTube channel, your newsletter, and to your book in the show notes. But what is the best place where people can learn more about you and your work?
um, I think we talked a lot about focus in general and doing on one thing. So if I say something else, it will probably be a little bit dishonest. So honestly, I have to say YouTube. It's everything where I'm putting all the eggs from there. Of course, you can find me on maybe Medium and newsletter. But if you really want to see where the action is, and if you found value from what has been said here, I would say YouTube has been is where I'm at. And I can say that especially like 2 days from now, like doing the Christmas thing, some really great videos are going to come out. So you can look out for that, and have this as some kind of Christmas present.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Oscar. It was a pleasure having you on the show. And well, I wish you all the best on the journey.
Thank you so much, Matt.
All right, so hope that you've enjoyed this episode with Oscar. As usual, you're going to find the links to everything we mentioned in the description. And if you want to level up your productivity as a content creator, if you want to save yourself some time and only focus on what really matters, then be sure to check out my daily emails. I'm going to leave a link in the description. Again, you can sign up for free and simply get all my productivity tips daily straight into your inbox. With that being said, thank you much for your attention, and I hope to see you in the next episode.